Hi Leanne, how you going?
Good morning. Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's
So thank you very
good.
much for coming into Soulplays today to chat with me.
No, it's my pleasure.
So we were just reminiscing that it's nearly 3 years ago that you first found me on Facebook.
Yes, that's correct. I was just scrolling Facebook as we do, and I came across, I think it was called the 60-second switch. And I was like, oh, that is interesting. Let me click on that. And the rest is really history.
So after you clicked on that, you downloaded the 60-second switch and then you would have received some training from me every week via email.
Yes, yeah, I watched like a webinar from that, a 45-minute webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would have received emails each week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that webinar, we had a phone conversation. Can you remember back then some of the things that you were telling me when we first met and we first spoke?
Oh, it seems like a lifetime ago, and so much has changed that it's hard to remember, but I will try. I was the sort of person that was very easily overwhelmed by the jobs that I had to do. And I had like a list of things that always needed to be done and they never ever seemed to get done. And also I worried a lot about what other people were thinking of me, and that would keep me awake at night. So there are some big things that I was talking about most likely, and setting boundaries as well around other people.
Yeah. And back then you were a principal in a rural area?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I felt a lot of pressure and constraints from outside sources that I was then imposing upon myself, that I now realise that none of that really matters. But, yeah. I was very overwhelmed and very anxious about my job and doing a really good job in the eyes of other people.
Yeah. And I remember
And
you'd
so
lost
much,
confidence.
sorry. Yeah, I was going to say so much so that even the fact that if people said anything nice to me, I never heard it, and would always downplay it to be not something nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I was just so inspired to watch with you, is that when I first spoke to you, you really felt like you weren't actually doing a good job as the principal, and you worried about that. And then when you started doing the Soulplays program and started shifting internally, you realised that people really appreciated you and loved having you there as the principal.
Yeah, and were really proud of me and proud of, and wanting to get to know me more. Like they wanted, my mum came for a visit and everybody wanted mum to come to their place because they just wanted to meet my mum and, tell her how wonderful I was. So yeah, it was a really big change for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you think that happened? Why do you think that before you started doing the work on yourself, that you didn't think you were doing a good job and you weren't aware that people actually thought you were doing a good job, and then all of a sudden it was really obvious to you?
Yeah, there's so much in that. First of all, I stopped caring about what other people thought of what I was doing. So when I realized, when I stopped doing that, if I stopped worrying about it, then it wasn't projecting outwards to other people to bring forth others, their stuff. Like I don't know how to explain it, but when I stopped worrying, other people didn't actually change. I changed. My opinion about myself changed. Like when I realized that people's opinions of me had nothing to do with me and were not my business at all, that just stopped me from hearing all the stuff that I used to hear that was really never there, and it was a construct of my mind that I had made up myself.
Yeah. And isn't that the biggest relief, to realise that the way that we see the world is just a projection of the way we see ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's just so amazing to realise that. And you used to lay awake at night. You used to have trouble sleeping. How did that change? Can you remember how that changed? I know it's a while now since you've been so much better.
Yeah, and it has, ever since doing Soulplays, it hasn't happened ever again. So the change in me has been really deep, and I believe that's because of the year-long coaching that I had with you. And so we can come back to that. But and talking about sleep, yeah, I'd be awake several times a week worrying about something that I've said or something that I'd done or what someone else had said to me. Oh my goodness. And I would go over and over it, so much so that, you know, I'd wake my husband up and then he would have a bad night's sleep as well. So I was impacting other people as well. And, you know, the restless nights and the not sleeping very well was also impacting on my job. You know, being tired doesn't help. But it has stopped. And the reason for that is, again, the whole point of the other people's thoughts and opinions about me isn't my business. It's just not my business. They're allowed to have any thought and opinion that they like, and it's just not for me to worry about or think about.
Yeah, and it really sets you free. Like if you're not thinking about that, then you can just totally embrace who you are and show up as who you are and make choices and do the things that you really love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get to that, because obviously you ended up making so many changes in your life as a result of this newfound freedom and this sense of who you are, you mentioned that you liked the fact that it was a year-long program. For those women who are watching this who have actually joined the Soul Pleaser program, you obviously get out of it what you put into it. So what are your tips to someone who is starting the Soul Pleaser program around making the most of it? What did you do that helped you get these great results?
First of all, I really wanted it. So that was a driving force for me. I know that I needed to change. And you said like the difference between your course and other things was the fact that, you know, there was a lot of coaching and it was for a long time. So the longevity of the course is one of the keys. So being with you and working with you and other women was a key to the change. The other thing was getting down and doing the work and really doing the work and really feeling the work. So I would watch those videos once through without any note taking, and then I'd watch the video again and take notes, and then the third time I watched it through, I would stop it and write in the journals that you provide. And it was just doing that work again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And the other thing about you, Leanne, is that you really showed up for the Q&As. You made that a priority, and you were a principal, and it really, you know, it was a challenge for you. You had to shut the door and, you know, make the space for that. But it was that important to you. You came to the Q&As, but you also came with questions, with deep questions about the work that you were doing and how you were applying it to your life, so that I was able to really coach you and support you through that change.
Yeah, that's so true. So making the time for yourself is so important, blocking out that hour. I remember even whenever I was on holidays, because being a school teacher, there was lots of holidays involved over a year of work. And so even making time within my holidays, saying this hour is for me and I'm doing my work with Tracy. And I remember one time we even had a meeting at the beach because I was at the beach under my beach umbrella. Yeah, so I just made the time.
Yeah, it was a priority for you.
And also showing up like with real life problems and sharing them, having the confidence and the bravery, I guess, the courage to share really what was going on for me. I think that was really part of it too, just really opening up to all the things that were going on inside.
Yeah. I think that that's where a lot of the healing comes from, is even just being able to be vulnerable in front of a group of women who at first you don't know, but then you become lifelong friends with because you have such a deep connection with them. But not only is that a healing for you when you share that vulnerability, so many of the other women in the group can relate to what you're saying, and so they experience a healing as a result of that as well.
Oh, so true. And I have an example. from Calm Kids, actually, a little girl was talking about how she was so worried about sharing her true emotions because she was worried what other people would think. And it's just, it comes back to that again about not worrying about what other people think and just allowing whatever needs to come up and be discussed and go forth so that you can actually get some tips and strategies to help deal with that, or even be reminded about the strategies and how you can, and seeing things in a different way. So how you could see the situation in a different light. I remember we had lots of conversations where you drew the light on the situation and when I was in darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gave you a new perspective and you were really open to that. But you talking about that little girl reminds me, I remember getting absolute goosebumps. I always believe that everything that happens for a reason, and I know that we were supposed to meet. So Jacinta, who also has done the Soulplays program, who you know from one of the retreats or several of the retreats, she said to me one day, "Oh my goodness, Tracy, I was a people pleaser from when I was a little girl. Can you please teach this to, children?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know that that's my strength. I'm really good at talking to women, but I don't know about that." And then we met. And even before you even thought of Calm Kids, while you were a principal, you had a class. And two things. One of the things I loved about you, and it's probably part of the reason is because you're a teacher, but you did everything in the workbook. Like you took it really seriously. And so one of those things was to draw the image of yourself and the different energy bodies. Can you share with everybody about how you introduced that into your classroom and some of the other Soulplays principles?
Yeah, I loved it so much because I got so much out of it. And whenever I get something out of something, I want to teach the children about it. So I took it to class one day and I had introduced yoga at school once I'd met you and been introduced myself to yoga, and then also meditation and journaling as well. So we were doing all that stuff at school. So as part of their journaling, I got the kids to draw that image of themselves, the outline. But instead of filling it up, because in your course we fill it up with all the busy words, like all the words that we need to find the light to be able to come through. But instead of doing that, I asked the children to fill it up with all the words that we made them unique and all their positive qualities. And the kids they loved them so much that they hung them up. We had to hang them up in the classroom. And it was a really great visual reminder then for children to remember actually who they were. And they're all their beautiful, unique qualities. And I know that once they came down out of the classroom, a couple of children came back to school and said they've got it hanging up in their bedroom above their bed. So that was really super cute.
Yeah, and the amazing thing was that not only was there a flow-on effect of you working on yourself to the children that you were teaching, but they were going home and there was a flow-on effect to the families as well, because they were sharing it with their parents and their siblings.
Yeah. Yes, so true. Yep.
And I was remembering that one of the things that I asked you, which is part of you discovering yourself, was how do other people see you? Because sometimes when we don't love ourselves, it's difficult for us to remember, how amazing we are. Can you remember what you shared with me about how the children in the classroom saw you, or what a child said to you once?
Oh, yeah. It even happened recently. Children will often tell me, "Oh, you're so magical, Mrs. Jones." And I remember asking a child one day, "What do you mean by magical?" And they're like, "You just have like shining bright lights all around you." And well, I had never been able to see that. I see it now in my eyes, but I had never been able to see that. But that's what children have been able to see.
Yeah. And that just gave me goosebumps, because when I'm guiding people back to their light and for them to be able to realign with their soul and their truth and do what lights them up, this was just like the perfect way of describing it, is that the children can see the light in you and they can see your spiritual body. You know, when we talked about the energy bodies and the spiritual body being our very outer layer, the children can still see it. They don't lose that magical way. And one of the things that you described to me near the end of the 12 months of the Soul Pleaser program is that everything just became wonderful. Like the life that you were living that you actually resented when you first started, all of a sudden was beautiful. Can you remember that experience and that change?
Yes, I was even laughing about it to myself this morning, that nothing changed, but everything changed. And the thing that really got me one day was I was just sitting and I realised there were birds outside my window in my lounge room, and I'd never heard them before. But they afterwards, after I heard them that day, I realised that they'd always been there. And they were the most gorgeous little finch type birds. They were black with red breasts, and they had the cutest, most sweetest song, and I'd never heard it. And I remember feeling like a Disney princess, thinking, oh my goodness, those birds are just sitting there singing for me. And
yeah,
and just something like that was one example. But the hills became more beautiful and the grass became greener, and I noticed the sky was so much bluer, and it's so true. It just is true that happened. And it's incredible to think that the view of the world was so limited.
Yeah, and so many people's are. We've just sort of been worn down by the things that have gone wrong in our lives, and we've taken it personally, and we've lost our self-confidence, and we feel lost, and the world becomes dark. But there is this opportunity for it to become light again, and you know, you're such a shining example of that. And very exciting is that at some point in our journey together, I was asked by some of the other soul pleasers to help them to create a business, because they really felt that they had found their calling as a result of going through the Soul Pleaser program. And when I mentioned to the group that I was going to start this new course, you had mentioned, actually, I've always wanted to run my own business, but I didn't know how. Didn't have a clue how to. And that was amazing. That was a little secret of yours that you'd held for years, but didn't know where to start, perhaps didn't have the confidence to.
Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly what it was, confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you think it came from the fact that you found yourself and then you started to teach the Soul Pleaser principles in the classroom, and then you just thought, well, I could run a business teaching this? Is that how it came about?
I don't think I ever thought that. And when I reflect back on the years that the year we worked together, and even after, like, there's just been these little gentle nudges and reminders. You're not on, like, I'd go for interviews, remember, Tracy, for job promotions, and I wouldn't get them. And, well, you know, that would have led me into a spiral once upon a time, but it didn't. After I'd done the work, I was okay. And now when I reflect back on that, they were the gentle reminders and the gentle nudges pushing me gently towards where I was meant to be going. And even when I was talking to you just now about the outline of the body and putting the positive words inside it, that was just a gentle, like, lesson. Oh. And now that's part of Kalm Kids. Like, that's the very first lesson that we do at Kalm Kids. And so there were just all these little gentle things that were pushing me towards where I was going.
Yeah. And I think you joined Purpose Prosperity saying, I don't even know what I'm going to do yet, but I don't want to stop working with you.
Yeah, I believe that was the case. So, yeah, it was just like things were gently pushing me towards this path.
Yeah. And it just makes so much sense, you know, because you kind of got nudged a little bit into nursing, but you always wanted to work with kids. So when we're people pleasers, we can get pushed off our track because somebody tells us, no, that's not a good idea. This is a better idea. So how long were you working as a nurse?
Well, I did my whole degree, and then I worked for a year as a nurse. And then I was just like, oh, this isn't what I wanted to do. So I left that and I worked in retail for 10 years. And then I found my way to teaching eventually when I was 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, I just think this is such a beautiful example of perseverance. Like, if we really follow our hearts and trust that there is a reason that you love to work with kids, and equally that is reflected back to you when kids say that you're magical. You know, it's like a lady I was talking to the other day. She wouldn't admit to anybody else, but she can have an animal walk up to her on her farm and the animal tells her what's wrong, so she knows what to do with the animal. Like, that is her magic. That is her gift. Like, we all have gifts. I'm an empath, so I can talk to someone and I can see what's going on. I just know what the underlying problem is and I can help them with that. That's my gift. So if we can trust that, but I think with the Soul Pleaser program, we have to get rid of all those conditioned layers that are blocking us from even being able to respond to our calling.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about, you know, being a nurse and then 10 years in retail and then being led to teaching. And once upon a time, I would have had stories around like sad stories or victim stories around all that. But now I see that I needed all those experiences to lead me to this point, because it's given me a lot of background knowledge and information.
Yeah. Yeah, every skill that you've developed over all of that time has enabled you to be able to run Kalm Kids now. So when we did Purpose Prosperity, there was more growth, wasn't there? Do you remember sometimes on the Q&As you were in tears in Purpose Prosperity because there was so much fear around putting yourself out there and advertising and asking for money for your services?
Yes.
Yeah, it was an amazing journey for you.
Yeah, it was a huge journey for me. And I can't, even again, like you look back on that, that was a year ago, 2 years ago that we started that journey together. And to look back on that and the fear that I had around it and putting myself out there and being vulnerable. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And look, it's just an incredible achievement for you to have no business experience. So I've run businesses since I was 18, and you have never run your own business. And 2 years ago, you started a course to learn how to set up Kalm Kids. And here you are now with this wonderful business. Can you just share with everyone a little bit about Kalm Kids and what you do at Kalm Kids?
Yeah. I am just teaching children strategies so that they don't become like me. At 40 years old, still laying awake at night, being anxious and upset about things that have transpired during the day. So the strategies are just to help them when things are scary, when things don't go the way they want them to go, when they're being asked to do things maybe that they don't want to do, and even just to be brave. Yeah. And to see things, and basically just shedding the light like you did to me on situations that may seem dark.
Yeah.
And helping them see different perspectives.
And as children, because they haven't been conditioned for as long as you were when you came to me and I was before I went through my own transformation, do they shift more quickly?
It's like adults. It's the same as adults.
Is it? Yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's really different. And some kids really, you know, some people get it, some kids get it. And some people, like you know, Tracy, aren't ready for the information as well. So there are those children. And also it depends again on the work, you know, the work that you do.
Yeah, so whether they're actually taking it on board.
Yes.
Like you can lead a horse to water. Yeah, they need to
do. So the work comes from them after the class is finished.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. And I noticed that you've also started teaching yoga. So you were introduced to yoga at the first Soul Pleaser retreat that you came to, and now you're a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think even just before that though, when There's something in your course that mentions yoga about.
I do talk about yoga in the course, yeah. So we've started it before.
Yeah, about calming your mind. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. And so I did start doing it at home as a home practice. And yeah, and then the first live lesson that I ever went to was at the retreat.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Amazing. So much has changed for you. If somebody was thinking about the Soul Pleaser program, what would be your advice to them? What would you say?
If you believe that your life is dark and you want there to be more light and beauty and love, and you really want that in your heart because you know your life needs to change, then dig in and do the work and turn up to the meetings and be vulnerable. Allow all the things that are inside of you bothering you to come forward, share them with Tracy. Her wisdom is amazing. Like the way she would gently nudge me towards, gently talk me towards seeing a different perspective is really wonderful. So that would be my advice. Dig in and do the work and be vulnerable.
Thank you. I feel so blessed because, like you, I've had a complete career change. I was a physiotherapist from my teenage years onwards and sold my business in 2017. And I felt called to do this work. It didn't really make any sense and just trusted it and started doing this work. And it's led me to people like you. Like I have these incredible relationships with people that I didn't know before. I just want everybody to know that your whole life can change. You know, you can create anything that you want and the limitations are just in your mind, and magic is out there if you're willing to look for it. And how can people get in touch with you, Leanne, if they're interested in either doing your yoga classes online or if they're interested in learning more about how you can help their children?
So both of the things are on Facebook, and both businesses have websites. I've actually separated the two out to make it more easy to understand that Kalm Kids is a wellbeing program for children to help them with their anxiety and or anger, and that yoga is a completely separate thing that I do. So Kalm Kids is with a K, kids, and it's on Facebook, and I also have a website where you can read some information, book in either to talk to me. I've got some trial lessons coming up, some trial days on the 29th of June, so you can book in for a free trial to see if it's the right thing for your children. And my yoga business is called Holistically You, and that's with a W, so the whole of you and all of you. So it's WH. Holistically You is my yoga business. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'll get you to share the links in the comments underneath this video, yeah, so it's really easy for people to find you. And for any of you who are interested in knowing more about the Soul Pleaser program, you can just send me a message, or you can find my website, which is my name, tracyseacombe.com. So lovely to talk to you. And can I just say that the other thing that happened to you is that you were like a swan and just became more beautiful as well.
But that's about me too. That's about me believing that I'm beautiful.
Yeah. Such a transformation. It was like you didn't do much with your appearance when you didn't feel good about yourself. And now that beauty within is just shining through, and it's just so lovely to see.
Yeah, but Tracy, before we go, that just happens in all of your life. Like once ego is let go, yeah, just life becomes beautiful.
Oh, so many goosebumps. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank
you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you too. Bye.
Bye.